Gantenbein Mosqueda. Gantenbein Mosqueda holds the rank of 107 in Aizen's army, and was also the former 7th Espada, who was demoted in favor of Aizen's more powerful Arrancar, making him one of the Privaron Espada. He has brown eyes and an orange afro style, along with sideburns and a goatee. Gantenbein is an honorable combatant when compared to other, and all he hopes for is a fair fight. He displayed restraint, and went easy on Chad during their fight, not going all out until Chad manages to get a hit in. He's an expert in hand-to-hand combat, and was able to initially dodge and counter all of Chad's physical attacks. His Zanpakuto, Dragra, translates to Dragon Fist. When sealed, it exists as a pair of two-pronged punch daggers attached to his wrists. Between the tips, energy can be collected and discharged, drastically enhancing Gantenbein's melee strikes. His release command is unknown, but when Draga is released, his arms go longer and become covered within a dome-shaped armor, while his punch daggers now come to resemble dragon heads. In his Resurrection, he is able to use Rugir el Dragon, or Dragon Roar Fist, which allows him to unleash orange beams of energy in various size and strength. The strongest of these attacks can take the shape of a dragon head. Tsuruchi Sandorichi. Tsuruchi Sandorichi is the 105th Arrancar, and yet another Privaron Espada. She has short purple hair and a teardrop marking on each cheek. Her outfit usually consists of a frilly dress with large poofy sleeves. Tsuruchi is cocky and rude. She often toys with her opponents, and is also quite sadistic. Shown in the battle against Uryu, Tsuruchi is capable of using strategies in combat, initially using her Zanpakuto to deceive Uryu and allow the battlefield to be cleared, allowing her to gain a further advantage over the fight. Her Zanpakuto is named Golondrina, Spanish for swallow. In its sealed state, it takes the form of a durable whip, with a disc blade attached to it, capable of defecting even a Quincy's Helig flail. Golondrina's path can be curved masterfully when thrown, to a degree that it can follow an opponent, but needs a lot of space in order to do so. Her Resurrection's release command is called Rip Off. When released, large wings sprout from her back, allowing for flight. She can use her wings as a blade, through Ala Cortadola, aka Wing Cutter, or as a rapid attack, through Ala Cortadola Dispersion, which allows her to fire individual feathers from the air. Her wings and arms consume a large amount of spiritual energy, but removing them allows her to focus the remainder of her spiritual power as a single weapon. However, this change is permanent. Dordoni Alessandro del Socaccio. Dordoni Alessandro del Socaccio is Arrancar of 103rd, and the last of the three Privaron Espada. He is a tall and muscular man, to pair with a beard and mustache, and a red sash around his waist and shoulder pads. He initially appeared displaying a more goofy personality, having attempted a dramatic entrance when he first met Ichigo Kurosaki. In battle, however, he can get much more serious. He attacked Nell in order to provoke Ichigo to unleash his full power, in hopes that he could defeat him at his best so he can regain his former position. However, the strength of the full power Ichigo causes Dordoni to get cut down in an instant. After their fight, he gets spared and shows respect, even fighting off Ichigo's pursuers all the way to his death. Similarly to Gantenbein, he's adept in hand-to-hand combat. Dordoni rarely utilizes his Zanpakuto in battle, as he prefers to fight unarmed through kick-based martial arts. During his battle against Ichigo, he easily handled his Shikai with just his feet. He's also adept with Sonido, allowing him to dodge attack and launch repeated counters. His Zanpakuto, Giraida, Spanish for Weather's Vein, takes the form of a standard katana. Its release command is Whirl, and upon releasing, Dordoni gains large horns on his shoulders and armor surrounding his legs. In this form, he gains wind-based abilities, whilst also being physically enhanced. He can summon two enormous cyclones from his armor, which he can use to fly and execute long-range attacks. Yammy Llargo. Yammy Llargo is an Espada who represents the aspect of death, rage. His tattoo is located on his left shoulder. He's simultaneously one of the weakest and one of the quote-unquote strongest Espada, normally holding the rank of 10, but becoming the rank 0 upon releasing his Zanpakuto. He is the largest member in the current Espada. He has darker skin and a powerful build, and he's also bald. He often finds himself bored, with everything other than battle, which he takes immense joy in. He even says suerte, which is Spanish for luck, to those he thinks could handle him. Rather than relying on tactics, he prefers to fight recklessly, relying solely on brute strength to win battles. Yammy's powers directly correlate with rage. He can absorb the souls of others to further his own abilities through Gonzui. When he activates his resurrection, enrage, or get pissed off, his Zanpakuto explodes, outpouring his spiritual reserves. Yammy then grows to a monstrous size, similar to a kaiju. Within this form, large tubes protrude from his elbows. His strength, spiritual power, and endurance increase dramatically, along with enhanced Sero and Bala attacks. His strength and size scale proportionally with his rage, allowing for continued growth. His resurrection evolves further, where he becomes more like a gorilla. He's able to unleash devastating attacks, yet even this tremendous power wasn't enough to overcome the combined might of Captains Byakuya and Kenpachi. Arrancar Arurureri is ranked 9 among the Espada. His tattoos located on his top and bottom heads. He represents the aspect of death, greed. He is also the hollow who killed Rukia's mentor figure, Kaien Shiva, taking in his memories and Zanpakuto. His face is usually concealed behind an elongated white mask covered by 8 holes. Underneath, there are 2 hollow heads. Arrancar loves to toy with opponents, particularly those he has information on that he had absorbed. Like with what happened with Rukia Kuchiki, where he tried to manipulate her to killing her comrades. His Zanpakuto is called Glotoneria, Spanish for gluttony. It takes the form of a nasty brown tentacle attached to his arm, with a worm-like mouth, usually concealed under a glove on his left hand. Glotoneria has an ability called Hollow Absorption, which allows him to absorb dead hollows and gain both their spirit power and abilities. Another ability is Aspect Manifestation, which allows Arrancar to perfectly manifest aspects of those he's absorbed, such as knowledge or appearance. At some point of time, Arrancar absorbed Metastasia, an experimental hollow used by Aizen, and through this he gained the ability to merge his own body with other beings, even Shinigami's, and destroy other Zanpakutos upon touch. His resurrection is released by the command Devour. When released, it turns his lower body into a massive purple blob, resembling an octopus. In this state, Arrancar stated he could manifest the power of all 33,650 hollows that he had consumed, making him a one-man army. Style Apollo Glands is the 8th Espada. His tattoo location is unknown, but we do know he represents the aspect of death, madness. He is the head researcher and spirit weapon specialist of the Espada. He is a tall and thin Arrancar, with shoulder-length pink hair to pair with his rectangular framed glasses. Similarly to Mayuri, his experiments can be quite twisted. He is extremely narcissistic, sadistic, and cocky. Sile tends to make disturbing comments about his opponents, and views others as nothing more than research material. He often laughs maniacally whenever he appears to have the upper hand in battle. Sile Oporo is a master inventor, having created a maze that he could shift throughout his domain in Hueco Mundo. He can also analyze his opponent's abilities on the battlefield, completely nullifying them on the spot when fully analyzed, becoming virtually immune to their attacks. He also has the most fraction among the Espada, and he personally modified them, so he can heal his runes by devouring them, and recreate them later if he wants. His Zanpakuto is called Fornicaras, meaning, you will fornicate. It had the appearance of a katana. It's released by the command Sip, and after he fully swallows the sword. He undergoes a change where his lower body transforms into purple tentacles, like a sea anemone, while his upper body dons a segmented grey garment, with distinctive white and purple sleeves. He also gains wings that have tentacle drippings coming off. These wings can act as a form of defense that block oncoming attacks. As for abilities in this state, he has Carbon Copy, which produces a black liquid. With even a simple touch, he can create exact copies of his opponents, that they're able to use the same abilities that they have. He also has an ability called Teatro di Tetele. By grabbing an opponent with his wings and spitting them out, he can create a voodoo doll of the victim. Any damage done to the doll reciprocates back onto the organs for the linked victim, inflicting devastating damage. He also has an ability where he can liquefy his own body, so that if he is eaten, he can invade that person's nervous system and take control, and he uses this on Mayuri's Zanpakuto. The final ability he had shown is called Gabriel. This ability allows him to be reborn if he's injured. He implants a portion of self in his target, then eats his way out of the target, absorbing all their fluids and chemicals on the way out, leaving their victim in a severely damaged state, while restoring his own body to normal. He takes great pride in this ability, even going as far as proclaiming himself as a perfect being. However, he does get killed by Mayuri, after experiencing deaths for centuries on end. Upon death, Sayo Aparo was sent to Hell, where he is now revealed to have the status of Jailer of Hell, with a power boost and new abilities to pair with it. Zamari Roro. Zamari Roro is the 7th Espada, and represents intoxication as his form of death. Zamari has dark skin, and wears the remnants of his hollow mask as spikes that resemble a mohawk on the top of his head. His overall design resembles a witch doctor, with one of his most unique aspects being his golden yellow eyes and his hollow hole at his right nipple. He's usually very calm, and always aims to have a very peaceful state of mind, which is why he meditates most of the time. Zamari has a clear hatred towards Shinigami for killing hollows, and it's the reason why one of his main goals is to exterminate every single Shinigami. He first appeared in the Hueiko Mundo arc, where he fought Byakuya Kuchiki. Using his clones, Zamari believed he defeated Byakuya, only for the captain to appear behind him. He was ultimately defeated by Byakuya's Senbon Zakura, after he tried to use a controlled Rukia to his advantage. However, even before he disintegrated, Zamari praised Aizen, which displayed his fanatical loyalty to the man. Despite looking like he was easily defeated by Byakuya, Zamari is on the level of captain level Shinigami. He was able to initially keep up with Byakuya using his Sonido, and he's able to produce clones using his Gemelos Sonido ability. These clones that are created, he states that increasing his steps even a little will result in quasi-clones. These clones are so accurate that some bleed after getting attacked, and apart from that, he claims to be the fastest when it comes to all of the Espada. Meanwhile, his Zanpakuto is called Blue Huria, and once his Resurrection is activated, it covers his body, produces 50 eyes, and his lower body starts to look like a pumpkin, with one-eyed faces around the area. He then gains 2 special abilities with the eyes on his body, being the main power source. First is Amor, the ability he used to control Rukia. When his eyes are set on a target, Zamari can take control of it. This includes the body parts of his enemies, which he can use in order for his opponents to harm themselves. Not only that, each eye can take control of a separate object, and if he targets an individual's head, he can take control of their entire body. However, this was countered with Danku by Byakuya. His other ability is called El Embryon, a defensive technique where he covers his entire body with his lower half. This shield is strong enough to block a Bankai attack from Byakuya, but in turn disables his ability to use the more. Grimjo Jagerjak. Grimjo Jagerjak is the 6th Espada, and represents destruction as his aspect of death. He is tall with a muscular build, with his light blue hair and eyes being most iconic characteristics. His hollow mask remnants can be found on his right jawbone, while his hollow hole is on his stomach. When looking for his tattoo, it is located on his back. Personality-wise, Grimjo is brutal, violent, and reckless. This is further worsened by his short temper, rudeness, and virtually non-existent respect for authority. This is the reason why he's always at odds with the 4th Espada, Ulquiorra. He is quite the battle maniac, having abducted Orihime to heal Ichigo, just so he can fight the guy. In the past, he was a member and subsequently a king of a group of Ajuchas, whose goal was to become a Vasto Lorde. As time passed by, the group gave up on that dream, as they had not evolved after eating 3,000 hollows. Grimjo was the only one who didn't lose hope, and ate the rest of his group per their request, so that he could become a Vasto Lorde. Grimjo appeared in several important plot points throughout the story. In the Arrancar arc, he had the upper hand, breaking Ichigo's hollow mask. When it comes to skills, Grimjo prefers and specializes in hand-to-hand combat. He used to be able to go up against Ichigo with his Bankai and hollow mask, with only one arm, and be on par with him if he had both. He is able to survive a Bankai-enhanced Gesuga Tensho, and continue fighting despite being gravely injured, as seen in his battles with Ichigo. What makes him stand out is his Sero. His Sero is exceptionally strong, maybe on par with Ulquiorra's a bit, and he can use Grand Ray Sero. His Zanpakuto Pantera's release command is Grind, and in this form, his appearance dramatically changes, and he gains a more agile outfit with long hair and cat-like characteristics, such as a tail, all while his mask turns into a headband. He can release sonic waves, and use Garra de la Pantera, which shoots out crystalline bombs that can destroy gigantic columns upon hit. He can use this in a burst fire succession, shooting out 5 crystals at the same time. Meanwhile, Grimmjow's strongest attack is called Desgaron, where he slashes blades made out of reishi that are powerful enough to make Ichigo struggle to deflect them. Lupi Antenor temporarily replaces Grimmjow as the 6th Espada after Grimmjow disobeyed his orders and challenged Ichigo at Karakura Town. The remnants of his hollow mask are located at the top left of his head, with his hollow hole being unknown. Lupi is very arrogant and usually mocks his enemies while fighting. If his opponents are weaker than him, he toys with them, but gets easily irritated when he is the one who's taunted. His main involvement in the plotline is his fight against Toshiro, Rangiku, Yumichika, and Ikaku during the Arrancar arc. He first had the upper hand, but as time went on, he was frozen by Hisugaya, and survived only after being saved by one of his fellow hollows. After that engagement, he was subsequently killed by Grimmjow. He blasted Lupi's top half with Zero, killing him and regaining his rank. Even when he was declared as an Espada, Lupi was only strong enough to take down multiple lieutenant-level Shinigami, and could be defeated by captains with some effort. His Zanpakuto is called Trepidora, and when his Resurrection is activated, he manifests 8 tentacles that he uses in several versatile manners. First is a technique called Lanza Tentaculo, where he thrusts a tentacle like a lance. Next is Huala Tentaculo, surrounding and then crushing his opponent using all of his tentacles. Lastly, Lupi has a technique called Hero Vergine, where his tentacles gain spikes, making them even more dangerous. Neutra Gilga is ranked as the 5th Espada, and represents the form of Death Despair. He was also the former 8th Espada before being promoted. He is a very tall and thin man, and can usually be seen smiling. He wears an eye patch on his left side of his face, which hides the remnants of his hollow mask. His tattoo can also be found on his tongue. Matching his appearance, he is extremely cruel and sadistic, even more so than the average Espada. Neutra even has hints of perversion, and has a habit of making foul comments towards women, to the point where he badmouths Neliel, a former member, who saved him from killing himself. He's extremely battle-hungry, and his main goal is to prove himself to be the absolute strongest of the Espada, not wishing to waste his time killing those he dubs weak. He also had a habit of challenging the then 3rd rank of the Espada, Neliel to Odelschwank, losing each time with Neliel not even bothering to draw her sword. The reason why he wanted to challenge her was because he couldn't stand being weaker than a female warrior, and felt the need to prove his own strength by defeating her. Eventually, he acquires the help of Granz, and the two find a way to sneak attack the Arrancar, removing her from the playing field, while Neutra eventually moves to the rank he now has. Neutra is highly skilled at using his scythe Zanpakuto, Santa Teresa, where he mastered both ranged and melee attacks. Not to mention, Neutra has the strongest hero in the history of the Arrancar, where Zaraki, at the beginning of their battle, couldn't even lay a scratch on him. Another thing that makes him unique is his Sero, which shoots out from his tongue instead of his fingers or hands, which is kinda weird. When activating his Resurrection, he gains 2 more arms, with each one having claws, and his Zanpakuto splits into 4 scythes, carried on each hand. When a scythe is damaged or lost, he can grow another one out of his wrists, and he can even grow 2 more arms which he uses for surprise attacks. Aside from those, he has a rare ability to heal injuries instantly after activating his Resurrection. Ulquiorra Sifur is a 4th rank Espada. He represents the aspects of death known as nihility, or nothingness. Ulquiorra is usually dismissive towards others, treating those he does not find immediately useful as trash. Like most Espada, there is a certain cruelty in his actions, and he is also obsessed with power. Despite this, Ulquiorra is not inherently violent, and does prefer to leave combat as the last resort. His history kind of explains this, as we learned that as a Hollow, Ulquiorra spent most of his time alone and wandering around, denying that he had a heart. He broke off pieces of his mask after he came across a spined white tree, which he found satisfying because he eventually found his way to Aizen, leading to the Arrancar we see now. As for his involvement in the plot, Ulquiorra's abilities are a testament to his rank. He focused on precise, efficient, and controlled combat. He's a master at hand-to-hand combat, which he combines effortlessly with the Sonido. His movements were so fast that Ichigo, in his Bankai state, struggled to keep up with him. His Zanpakuto, Murcielago reflects his aspect of death. He only unsheaths his sword if his opponent is truly worthy enough, and when released, it unleashes a torrent of black and green energy. His resurrection transforms him into a bat-like figure, where his mask morphs into large horns atop his head, and black wings sprout from his back. This form enhances his current combat abilities, where he can unleash a stronger version of his Cero, known as Cero Oscuras, a concentrated blast of energy that is even capable of destroying segments of Las Noches' dome. Ulquiorra is also able to create energy javelins for melee or ranged, called Luz de Luna, which can explode upon impact. Other than that, he has other abilities such as Bala. Also, his Hierro vastly increases in strength, to the point where Getsuga Tensho, with Ichigo's mask activated, has no effect at all. Ulquiorra has 3 unique abilities that can rarely be seen among the other Espada. First is high-speed regeneration, which allows him to instantly heal any non-vital injuries. Second is his Solida Vista, where he can extract and transmit his memories to others by crushing one of his eyes into dust. This allows him to share events he has witnessed, essentially allowing others to see into his perspective. He mostly uses it to report to Aizen, or lower his enemy's morale, by showing them a defeat. Ulquiorra pairs this up with his high-speed regeneration to instantly restore a destroyed eye. Lastly is his Segunda Etapa, the second release form of his resurrection. He admits that not even Aizen has seen this, and that it represents true despair. Ulquiorra seems even more monstrous in appearance, with fur and talons. His spiritual pressure becomes so dense that even Uryu Ishida was able to feel despair. Ulquiorra's tail alone was able to break Orihime's Santen Keshun, and with his wings he was able to deflect Ishida's attacks. His most powerful attack comes in the form of Lanza del Relampago. He creates an arrow-like javelin of pure energy, which has a destructive explosion so powerful that it dwarfs Las Noches, and can even harm himself at close range. At one moment, Hollow Ichigo threw his own arm at Ulquiorra, only for it to instantly disintegrate once hit by these javelins. Tear Haribel is one of the big 3 of the Espada, holding the position of number 3. She represents the form of death sacrifice. Just by looking at her, you can tell she is tall, fit, and beautiful, with her green eyes and golden hair. Her outfit sports a high collar, which covers most of her face. Her hollow mask remnants cover both sides of her face all the way down to her breasts. You can find her Espada tattoo on her right chest, while her hollow hole is on the lower part of her abdomen. She tends to differ quite a bit from the others. She's actually quite calm and collected, not displaying the usual bloodlust many of the lower ranked Espada have. This does not mean she's a pushover, as she is more than willing to challenge any disrespectful behavior. In battle, she displays a very analytical mind, creating strategies that help her in many combat scenarios. She is also quite proud, even declaring that her opponents can be the first one to strike. However, she does have a softer side, especially for her subordinates, whom she is willing to give life and limb to. What makes Haribel unique in terms of swordsmanship is that she's ambidextrous, meaning she can switch between both of her hands when in the fight. She's on the level of a captain level Shinigami or higher, seeing as she took on Hitsugaya, who had a lot of help. Her spiritual power is also so strong that she's forbidden to release her Zanpakuto when she's inside Las Noches, because it would demolish the building. Speaking of her Zanpakuto, Tiburon, she can launch spiritual pressure towards her opponent using an ability known as Ola Azul. Her resurrection removes her mask and turns it into a collar. She gains a miniskirt and shoulder guards, and her weapon becomes larger, taking the form of a giant shark tooth. Once activated, she can manipulate water through the gills of her blade. With this, she can use several abilities like Trident, where she fires slashes that can cut her enemies in half like butter. Then there's her Viendo, where she can boil any form of water, including Hitsugaya's ice. La Gota is another ability, where she condenses and blasts water from her blade, which is strong enough to rip through entire buildings. Lastly, there's Cascada, where Haribel launches a giant torrent of water towards her opponent, which is so vast that it can flood entire town blocks and streets. Neliel 2 Odelschwank. Neliel 2 Odelschwank is the former third Espada before Haribel. What makes her unique is that she has 2 forms, her adult and child form. As an adult, Neliel has an impressive figure, with long mint green hair and a crimson line running across her face. She wears a skirt and a long sleeve top with her tattoo on her back. As a child though, Nell becomes cuter, with large canines on her lower jaw and her hollow mask, which she wears on top of her head. Since she has 2 forms, she also has 2 personalities. As a child, she's kind of bizarre, calling herself a masochist, usually pronouncing S's and T's, and is very afraid of Shinigami. When she grows up, she still has her childish affection towards Ichigo, was much more mature, intelligent, and logical. She likes to avoid combat as much as possible, even when she was a member of the Espada, and would stop fighting weaker opponents just like Zaraki. In the past, Neliel was constantly challenged by Neutra, the 8th Espada at the time, in order to prove male superiority, but he was beaten every time. And eventually, he and the mad scientist Grands teamed up and sneak attacked Neliel, leading to her defeat and Neutra tossing her body out of the castle. However, it turns out the cut they made had a strange reaction to her body, making her a child. As she wandered Hueco Mundo, her Fraction, Pesce, and Dodo Chaka swear to protect her as they wander the land together. She has a special ability called Cero Doble, where she absorbs incoming Cero and fires it back after imbuing it with her own Cero, increasing the power of the attack. Neliel's Zanpakuto, Gamuza, allows her to activate her Resurrection. She turns into a centaur with shoulder guards, and her Zanpakuto turns into a giant double-sided lance. She has an ability called Lanzador Verde, where she throws the lance towards an enemy, spinning the weapon like a drill and piercing anything used to block it. It was even strong enough to break Neutra's Zanpakuto. She also has a special ability she calls Nell Shower, which allows her to vomit a clear saliva-like liquid which can heal minor injuries. Baragan Luisenburn is the second-ranked Espada, and he represents the aspect of death known as old age. He is also the former God King of Hueco Mundo. Baragan looks just like an old man, with a scar on his left eye, a mustache, and white hair. He has a very muscular frame and wears an outfit similar to that of a Viking. The remnants of his hollow mask look like a crown just above his forehead with his hollow hole in his chest. Since he was the former ruler of Hueco Mundo before Aizen arrived, he tends to have a very egotistical view of himself, putting on a regal persona and not hesitating to take command or order others as he sees fit. He does not carry his own equipment and has his subordinates handle things for him. His aspect has given him a sense of finality and arrogance over his strength. That image is easily shattered when he feels like someone outmatches him and he reverts to an aggressive monster. In the past, Baragan was the undisputed king of Hueco Mundo. He reigned over an open court with many servants and even had a large army of hollows. But he was bored with his unchallenged reign. So Baragan welcomed Aizen's group when they arrived. But when he refused Aizen's offer to join him, Aizen demonstrated his power by effortlessly destroying Baragan's army, ultimately leading to Baragan's incorporation into Aizen's forces as the second Espada. Baragan has a number of unique abilities, with his most iconic being Senescencia. This allows him to create a time dilation field that slows time around a certain area and allows him to attack in real time. The next power is Age Acceleration, which allows him to instantly age anything he touches, just like how Soifan's left arm became very old until her bones broke. Baragan is also a master at Selmido, to the point where he surprised Soifan, one of the fastest Shinigami with just his speed. Just like the rest of the top 3 Espada, he cannot use his Zanpakuto inside Las Noches, and he's also so smart that he instantly deduced that Karakura is fake, and the 4 pillars are the real targets. He is skilled when using his Zanpakuto, Arrogante, which is in the form of a giant double-headed axe when released. When he activates his Resurrection, he gains his old form. He becomes a skeleton, wearing a golden crown and a purple cloak, plus golden accessories. In this form, he can survive a direct hit from Soifan's Bankai, while increasing the effectiveness of Senescencia. He also gains another ability, called Vespira, where he unleashes a dark purple smoke that ages anything it touches, to the point where it rots. He can even deteriorate Kido as well. Lastly, his most powerful attack comes in Gran Kaida, where he pulls out his original axe. Using this, he can use Vespira as a slashing attack, extending its range, precision, and overall effectiveness. Coyote Starrk is the number 1 Espada. The form of death he represents is Solitude, and he's considered to be the undisputed strongest Arrancar. In his base form, Starrk has wavy brown hair and a goatee. He sports a common Arrancar uniform, and the remnants of his hollow mask can be found on his neck. You can find his Espada tattoo on his left hand, and his hollow hole is located on his sternum. Despite his power, Starrk is lazy, and the only one who can get him up is his other half, Lilinette. Even as the strongest Espada, he doesn't act as the group's leader. Giving the role to Baragan, he hated loneliness, and it led him to dividing his soul into 2, the other being Lilinette. When he was a hollow, he became jealous of how the weak were able to form groups. because he was so strong that any other hollow that came near him died due to his mere presence. This led to the hollow becoming Starrk and Lilynet, naming and assuring each other that they'll never be separated. They were found by Aizen under a huge pile of dead hollows. Starrk does not have a normal Zanpakuto, which is why he carries a normal katana. However, he's still one of the best swordsmen that Espada has to offer. When it comes to using Sonido, he can be so fast that both Zaraki and Ichigo were caught off guard and was able to dodge attacks from captain level opponents at once. Unlike other Arrancar, Starrk can fire off his arrow without doing a pose, and can shoot it from any point of his body. When he combines with the Lilynet, he activates Los Lobos, which gives him access to his resurrection. This manifests as two pistols that contain Lilynet's consciousness. Her mask also appears on his head, while his outfit becomes covered with grey fur. Starrk is an expert marksman when it comes to firing Cero from his pistols. He has an ability known as Cero Matroleta, where he unleashes a barrage of Cero that is so dense, it looks like one giant blast altogether. What makes this more dangerous is that he can redirect this attack. Aside from his pistols, he can also summon swords using Kolmio, which he manifested to match Shinsui's Shikai. And since Starrk can separate his soul, he can summon a wolf pack in exchange for his weapons. These wolves can explode once they bite into an enemy, and can move at great speeds. If you like my content covering manga and anime, it would make my day by subscribing to my channel and hitting the bell, so I can continue making videos like this. Okay, that's it. Let me know down in the comments which Espada you think is most interesting or broken, and let me know why. And anyways, click this video right here to learn about every anime antagonist.